everyone. Thank you so much for coming. This is an educational forum on renewable heating alternatives, especially pellet boilers. Many of us here have been heating with wood stoves and pellet stoves for years. Recently, more efficient wood stoves, wood boilers, and pellet stoves are making wood a first-tier renewable. This weekend in Washington, D.C., the Green Energy Alliance is hosting a competition event for the most efficient wood stoves, the Wood Stove Decathlon. These are second and third generation wood stoves that are making consumers take a second look at this affordable way of heating homes. There are 14 stoves that are featured. One combines the best features of a rocket mass heater, a masonry heater, and a wood stove. Another is a device that is an insert that tackles wood smoke problems and makes your old stove perform like new. Sounds good, right? Another is my personal favorite. At 56 pounds, it can be taken from the boat to the cabin, to the RV, or into the home. The challenge was to design a wood stove that is low emission, high efficiency, innovative, and affordable. At this point, you may be saying to yourself, I thought this was about pellet heat. Well, about 20 years ago, European designers took on the same challenge that these wood stove designers did. Only they were designing a pellet boiler. Their goal was to create a low-emission, high-efficiency, innovative, and affordable pellet boiler system. The systems that were designed are now warming people all over Europe. With 80% of all the heating fuel being consumed in the Northeast, here in the US, these efficient pellet boilers have been making their way into the US market. They are raising the bar for regional pellet stove producers. It is a fact that heating with wood is sometimes impractical, especially if you are away from your home for extended periods of time or are physically unable to handle the stoking of the stove. And so, in most cases, an oil or gas boiler or furnace is used as a backup. This forum will introduce alternatives to fossil fuel-based units, pellet boilers, pellet furnaces, and we will specifically be discussing the units that operate automatically with pneumatic delivery systems.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mike Palko. I'm a forester with Pennsylvania's Bureau of Forestry. I'm their biomass energy specialist, and my office is in Williamsport. I understand I have 15 minutes to present, and I've got 45 minutes worth of slides. So tighten your seatbelts, here we go. Pennsylvania Wood Energy Program, we have a mission to install and firmly establish decentralized small thermal production using biomass, particularly in my case wood, low use wood, low value timber. Utilizing other mill residue, short rotation woody crops, and even switchgrass and other herbaceous grass-like feedstocks. To do this on a community level and also in the process develop communities, develop positive economic growth for small communities. To start with, just some examples of cost savings in Pennsylvania. Within the last 25 years, Mountain View School District, they were saving $131,000 a year. And you can see these others, the greenhouse in Bloomsburg, Elk Regional, St. Mary's Hospital, $300,000, Benton Area School District. They started off burning switchgrass. They're burning hardwood pellets now, about $72,000 a year in savings. And you can see a number of different fuels there, mostly fuel oil and natural gas. Some examples across the state dating back to 1991. School districts, 10 schools, are elementary, middle, high schools are currently heating their buildings with wood chips. 3 hospitals, Warren State Hospital, Evangelical Community in Lewisburg, Elk Regional up in St. Mary's. Greenhouses, we have 3, and I believe I found a 4th one down in Chester County that are heating their buildings, their greenhouses, glass and plastic greenhouses with wood chips. Bloomsburg University is heating their campus now with wood chips. That's a number of buildings that they will have their, I believe this will be their second season burning wood chips. All total, I've come up with about 85 facilities in Pennsylvania. I know there are more, we just haven't found them, but about 85 facilities are currently using wood chips to heat their facilities or to provide processing steam or hot water. These are wood chip systems, just to give you a sense or a flavor of how big or what they look like. A little background will help you understand some of the pellet systems that you would want to install. Sullivan County, they're using 800 tons a year from a sustainable source, and they are certified. Lewis Lumber in Forksville is a sustainably certified sawmill providing the wood chips from their well-managed forests. In this case, they're replacing 46,000 gallons, eliminating 830 pounds of sulfur dioxide and 1 million pounds per year of carbon dioxide. And this is something that we're not doing a very good job, I'm not doing a good job of promoting the benefits, the environmental benefits, the emission benefits that wood combustion systems can afford the environment. Later, during our panel discussion or question and answer period, I'd like, again, to address some of these environmental concerns or benefits. I'll postpone that discussion till later. Sullivan County, just if you want to look through there, it was a $1.65 million project. I'll show you a picture where they actually installed a building to house all of their equipment. I want you to notice the hot water thermal storage, 3,000 gallon tank. I don't know if my slides will show it, but the thermal storage is something that I want you to keep in the back of your mind. It's very important. It's a very beneficial accessory to install for these larger systems and even for your home. That in its application, your pellet boiler, for instance, would be in a steady state. It's there heating the hot water being stored in an insulated container, rather than your pellet boiler responding to the thermostat. Spike on, shut off. Spike on again, shut off. Instead, it's running consistently, just enough to keep the water hot for your house or business. So it's an important feature that we need to promote more in Pennsylvania. You can see some of the data. I won't belabor many of those details. You can see them for yourself. Here's a picture of their building, and from where you're viewing, the high school would be about 50 yards behind you, and you can see the garage doors open. They dump in, large tractor trailers dump in wood chips. Down below that wall that you see, the blue wall, in the bottom there's a traveling screw auger, goes back and forth, screwing out, pulling out wood chips onto the rubber conveyor. Up the conveyor it goes to the front of the boiler that you see in the picture. The front of the orange to the right would be the front of the boiler. Feeds into a metering bin, and that produces, the combustion box produces the heat for hot water, and that gets circulated underground over to the school. Very nice, very effective system. The lower right picture, you'll see a small dumpster, very small in its application. A very small amount of ash comes out of all of that tonnage of wood chips. Another example, the Hughesville High School. Very nice system, probably their 4th season this winter. It's part of an energy service company project where the school opted for a guaranteed energy savings. The company came in and did windows and doors, insulation. They upgraded the energy efficiency of the building. They had to expand the auditorium, so they took advantage of that and excavated for a new boiler room. And it's a fairly small system, less automated than others, but it just demonstrates for us that in some of these applications, larger applications for schools, doing a little manual labor is not objectionable to staff within the school district. And you'll see here too, hybrid willow. They planted about 60 acres of hybrid willow. Hybrid willow, as many of you may have already heard, developed by SUNY and Cornell University. Now Penn State's involved. They have 60 acres. This second week of December, we're going to harvest our first crop, 20 acres. And that 20 acres of hybrid willow should provide, I'm going to guess, 60% of what that high school needs to heat itself. Now just imagine, they have 60 acres. Suppose they get a couple dozen more acres, 100 acres. They could, in effect, harvest their own heat for their entire winter need just by harvesting that hybrid willow. That's energy sustainability. That's energy efficiency there. Now we look at these residential units, and these pellet boilers here represent one of the best opportunities for biomass energy in Pennsylvania, because they're taking 1, 2, 3, or more of these small residential systems, and depending on your heat load, you can cascade them and provide even a greater amount of heat. This is right next door to us, Honesdale, the cooperage. Ed is sitting in the audience. He's taken an old barrel manufacturing facility, and converted it into a community building. And these Oka fins are Austrian in design, very fine design, and in this case, 2 of them put together, being supplied by 2 of these super sacks. They come in a kit, 2x6 construction, carry them upstairs and construct them with Tyvek bag. And pneumatically, they're loaded from a pellet truck. It is bulk storage. I want to clarify, a lot of people, whenever I say bulk storage, to them, bulk delivery of pellets rather, to them that means someone arrives with their little flatbed truck and they get a pallet of 50 pounds or 50 bags, 40-pound bags, forklift and placed on their truck, and they drive off, and that's bulk delivery of wood pellets. What we're doing here is a tanker arrives, and you actually pneumatically or with a screw auger deliver loose wood fuel pellets and place them in a bin such as this. Then off of the bottom of that bin, they're delivered either with a flex auger or a pneumatic vacuum hookup right into the boiler. Very nice application. We do not have many of these small type residential systems from Okefin or Froiling or Woodmaster in Pennsylvania, and that's why I say it's one of the greatest opportunities for biomass heat that Pennsylvania faces right now. Weiser State Forest, middle part of the state. It's one of our forest district offices. We have 2 Froilings installed by ATI, company down in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. You see the red Froilings, much similar design and purpose as the 2 Okefins that you saw. And it's heating not only the building, the office building that you see in the upper left, it's a LEED certified building, also the maintenance headquarters right across the parking lot. And in the back you see the grain bin. I have some better pictures here, right here. The Brock grain bin made in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And this system also is providing domestic hot water and the hot water for in-floor radiant heat inside that LEED certified building. Very nice application. That's my presentation. I'm available. I know that people here in New York have a lot of questions. I'll help you as much as I can. Any place in Pennsylvania, I'm available to come and make presentations and help you, partner with you to help you with those installations of bulk pellet boilers and even wood chip boilers. Thank you very much.
My name is Patrick, and this is my son Kyle, Vincent, of Vincent's Heating and Fuel Service. We started this business as a heating installation and service company 20 years ago. And what we learned was good hard work and great service pays off with an overflowing customer base. And then that basically turned into Vincent's Heating and Fuel. And how we arrived at Vincent's Heating and Fuel was people kept asking us to start delivering heating oil and kerosene. Well, we didn't have any customers, and We said, well, we'll give it a shot. And what amazed us is we went from 0 customers in heating oil and fuel oil delivery to 1,000 in 3 years. Really just shot off. And then people, in 2008, oil went up to $3.65 per gallon, which probably most of you here remember. What that turned into was people started asking us about wood pellets. And at that time, we developed this little guy here was our idea of where we should start with wood pellets. Was cheap. First pneumatic system that we could come up with inside New York State. There's no metal parts to it at all. It runs just on air. Holds 1.25 tons, and that little guy right there has done a lot of work. 20 people signed up immediately to take bulk wood pellet delivery. And we were glad it stayed kind of small because it was easy to manage, and people warmed up to it gradually. But what we understood was the amount that we were hearing from people, the compliments were, I don't have to handle in bags no more. That was a really eye-opening thing for us. This is what we call our blue collar special here. Reason being that it is blue, and that underneath the bin there, what you do is you slide a pail underneath there, and there's a slide that you pull and the pellets drop into it, which made it easy for most people to handle to go to their unit stoves, which is your pellet stove that you have in your living room or your some places basements, but dining rooms, etc., to heat a designed area of the place, but take the chill off and kind of cut back on those prices of heating oil. Where we are today with pellets is this. This is what that all turned into. The big grain bin behind there is what Mike was talking to you earlier when you seen some of them silos. That's a 26-ton capacity. Actually, we can do 27 with it, but we only carry 26. We don't want to overload the truck if we don't have to. And that offloads about a ton every 3 minutes. Blows them in. Does a really nice job, moves the pellets along at a nice pace. It doesn't do a lot of damage to them. That was what had to be important when you do bulk delivery wood pellets. You don't want a lot of dust and fines. It does constantly show up at some point. This is our outside system. This is what we have today. That outside storage bin, we don't envision people wanting that in their backyard. But this is our answer to that. Looks like a tool shed. Inside is designed to let the pellets flow freely down to a metering system underneath. The pellets are brought underneath the ground, right into the home to a desired point, up to 50 feet we do. Makes it really easy for people who are immobile, your elderly people, or just people on the run. And this is one of our kettle. The kettle boiler is one of our nicest pieces of machinery that's come out on the market for a reasonable price point wise. That's one of our biggest things. There's a complete setup with a mini silo next to it. That's a 3-ton capacity, augers directly into it. And what's nice about this, the only thing the homeowner really has to do is empty the ashes once a month. That's all you're required to do. Just once a month, get on there, and we'll even send you a text message once a month to tell you, hey, empty your ashes. But that's the only thing you have to do, and maintain your thermostat to a comfortable level. The trouble with heating oil today, heating oil, kerosene, propane, is priced people right out of their homes. It's really making them uncomfortable, and it's not what this country's all about. You're supposed to be comfortable in your own home, and with wood pellets in a system like this, it puts comfort back into your home, and that's what happened in this particular case. These people were burning 2 or 3 bags of pellets a day to fight off the oil problem. We put the kettle in there, and it dropped them right down to 1 bag a day because it does the whole house. It does what it's supposed to do and heat the home efficiently. When this thing is running at top efficiency, when it's running, really kicking it out the heat at 100%, you can hold your hand right on the stack. That's how much heat is staying in the boiler. None of it's going up the chimney. It's got a 10-to-1 turn down. That means it's a modulating boiler. It modulates itself up to high temperature and modulates itself down when it's going into shut-off mode. There again, it's fully automated, self-cleaning. There's an air compressor in there that keeps the ash pot clean, or the burn pot just keeps blowing it off. That's what makes it so convenient to people who own pellet stoves, where you have to constantly clean them day after day or week after week. Sometimes you got to clean them things, and they get problematic if you don't clean them. Well, with these, you virtually forget that they're down there because they're, number one, they don't make any noise. There's no smells attributed to them. They're just something that takes a little getting used to because there's no noise. There's nothing at all that you can hear from them. The Numac. This is a piece of work. Numac furnace. It's made up in Nova Scotia, Canada. These guys took the Numac furnace, which is typically a wood-oil combination, wood-coal combination. That's what these guys did. They just made it available to burn wood, oil, coal, that kind of thing. But they said, well, let's do something different with it. They put the MPV burner on it, which is a pellet burner, and it worked very well. This thing went from cold startup. If you walked in your house with no heat, you turn this thing on, 7 minutes you got heat through your house. I've timed it time and time again. This thing just really does a really nice job. It ramps up slowly. Starts about 60,000 BTUs, and we'll take it all the way up to 130,000, something like that now. 130,000. Works well with any four-star home application. You can put air conditioning with it. So if you have air conditioning there now, essentially what we say to you guys with this piece of equipment, if you have a forced-air furnace, take your oil furnace out, take your oil propane furnace out. You don't need it no more. This thing does everything that you need it to do. This was something we came up with. Kyle, my son Kyle here, helped me out with this. The Pellet Pro. That's what you saw with that previous design with the outside building there. This is all part of it. The pellets come underground, and what we show you with the hosing is that we can take this up, do 4 or 5 90s, and just drop this thing anywhere. We can do up along the ceilings, we can go underground, we can go anywhere with this thing, up to about 50 feet comfortably. It's a great complement to our bulk delivery, is why we got it, why we started designing it. Primary design for the pellet stove owners. That was, like I said, for the people who have their stove owners. I said, geez, how do we help these people out? And that worked out well. It's getting great reception out there. Manually, it's completely automated. Press a button, and the thing about it is it fills to a pail of comfortable. So if you're a person that can only carry 10 or 15 pounds, you no longer have to carry a bag. You can just carry a bucket with 10 or 15 pounds of pellets in it. Or if you want to load it all the way up, you certainly can do that too. It's great for senior citizens, people with limited mobility, removes the need for pellet bags, which ultimately end up in the landfills. If anybody knows anything about plastic, once it goes into the ground, it stays there forever. There's nothing much you can do with it. So that's another good part of this Pellet Pro. We can help you guys down in this area by giving you this one thing. Heating oil and propane and kerosene is very expensive. We can save you 50%. It's not a number I'm going to pull out of the air. As I told you before, 20 customers that signed up were our oil customers. We tracked them over these last 5 years. And they will themselves tell you that they've saved 50% in gallons as well as dollars off their heating costs of their home. That's a big number, and it's a real number. Local companies will help you guys down here. We can help employ local people down here by giving them the 1-2 punch, so to speak, we got. Working with other companies down here. We want to bring bulk delivery very specifically to Narrowsburg. We want to bring the Numac furnace down here. We want to bring the kettle boiler down here. And hopefully it will create jobs here locally. It will help inspire the people here locally to spend their money locally instead of like say, as far as the heating oil, where it's all going. And basically that keeps the money spent on these heating costs in the local economy.
How's everyone doing this evening? I'm glad to see as many people show up today as there is here now. I'm just going to take a moment and introduce our company, Buselli Plumbing, Heating and Electric Incorporated. I'll just let you introduce yourselves. And I'm Blair, by the way. I'm the youngest of 3 sons of my father here, and obviously the best looking.
I'm Bill Jr. This is my father, Bill Sr., and I'm the most intelligent. So
I'm their father. They refer to me as the old man. Our part of the business, or my part of it, is if you have an older system and you want to integrate anything that these gentlemen explained as far as your heating equipment, I'm the one that would probably be the one to do the installing or oversee it. If you're looking to integrate solar panels into a wood pellet system or into your existing fossil fuel, that would be Blair. And the oldest one here is in charge of coordinate between all of us to make sure there's nothing left out, so it goes a smooth process and make sure that your equipment shows up on time and we have the right material to do the job.
We kind of fell into the renewable energy businesses because we do have a lot of customers in the area. And we do the oil burner servicing every year, and you show up and people don't necessarily like to see you come. They don't like to see the fact that they've just paid money all winter towards this oil monster in the basement, and now they got to pay a little bit extra money to make sure it's maintained. And then, of course, if you find parts wrong, it's not a good thing. So they're always asking us, what can we do differently? And we really wanted to be able to give them options. You know, we didn't want to give them the option of, okay, take this 80% efficient oil boiler out and slap in a 87% efficient oil boiler. We wanted to provide some sort of options other than just that, other than just maybe a little better efficiency. And through the course of an organization out in Holmesdale called Seeds, I think I see Michelle sitting back there, they kind of took it upon themselves to call up local contractors and offer solar thermal, solar electric, windmills, all these different courses to promote this in the area. And we fell into some of those courses, took those courses, and that way when we go around we can give people options and let them know that there's not just oil and gas. There's not just oil, gas, or electric. It's really been a benefit to us to be able to explain that to people. The one thing I do want to speak on is integrating solar with it as well. The pictures up there that you've seen of the Cooperage project, that's a project we came in on after it was kind of already started and finished up that project. That's where we were really introduced to the wood pellet side of our business. Since then we've done a couple other installations, but we've talked with Ed about maybe in the future doing some solar hot water to help heat the building because it's all radiant. And what we've done at Joe and Jane's house is also integrate solar with the wood pellet boiler. And with that is you have solar panels on the roof and it circulates water through it. And when the sun comes out, there's a sensor on it. It says, okay, I'm hot, let's circulate some water. It registers the water temperature in the bottom of the tank and says, yeah, you're hot enough to make me warmer. And then the water circulates into a buffer tank, a storage tank. And if you can picture your regular water heater that you have now in your basement, it's probably about 2 to 3 times that size. So it's not a 1,000-gallon tank or something. So during the summer months, the solar panels are heating that storage tank up to about 200 degrees. And off of that storage tank, we also have the pellet boiler piped. So during the summer months, your solar panels are heating the storage tank. During the winter months, when it gets really, really cold out and the sun is lower in the sky for less amount of hours during the summer or during the winter, then the solar struggles a little bit to keep up, but you still have the wood pellet boiler to kick on and heat that storage tank. And then your whole house is piped off of that. And again, this afternoon we have a great display of that setup where you basically unlimited hot water all summer long. You know, domestic showers, you can't run out of hot water because you have more than enough panels heating that storage tank to take care of your showers. And then as the season goes on and gets a little bit colder, you know, September, October, November, your solar panels are taking a pretty good brunt of the, if not all of the heating load of the house. And then when you really get in the cold months of December, January, February, when again the sun production isn't that great, you have the wood pellet boiler kick in and heat that buffer tank, and that gets you through the colder months of the year. I know there's questions of freeze protection, and especially in this area with power going out, we'll show different options that are available for that too, to take care of that. Again, like our customer base is, I'd say if not 50%, probably even more of part-time residents. I think about a third of us here are probably our customers already. And we've done solar for several people in here, and we've talked about wood pellet boilers with even more. So there are options out there, and for us, we want to not just hold on to the fuel oil aspect of it and die with the fuel oil aspect of it. We want to move in the right direction. We want to change the course of the heating because of what you guys have mentioned with the local businesses, the local mills, the local logging people.
Right now, and the figures vary, but Jane said in her introduction that we're in the northeastern United States, which we're a part of. We consume about 80% of the nation's fuel oil. We also have a tremendous amount of mills in the northeastern United States. Right now, they're fluctuating between 40 and 60% capability of what they're operating at. And a lot of that has to do with us as a nation. We've become a lot more responsible. We're recycling a lot more. We're using a lot less paper. So now all the forests over the last 40 years, they've been so well managed, they're kind of choking themselves from the way it's explained to me. And by looking to a source like wood pellets, you're putting all the mills and the lumberjacks, all those people back to work. We're keeping the forests healthy. But if you just think about how far your dollar goes and how far the fuel must travel, we're buying fuel from overseas, and think about the amount of fuel it takes just to bring that back to us right here. We're sending it all the way over there, they're sending it all the way back here, when we could just be doing it right in our own backyard. So that's where I think you were going with that, with the mills that aren't operating to capacity right now.
But yeah, just local. Everything's local. It's a small town, and it's a nice, quaint little town, and even if it's not, I mean, the big aspect is the local businesses, money staying local, and your dollar goes further, not just in the area, but also, 50%. They can save you 50%. Wood pellets are a lot cheaper than fuel oil, than gas. So just, if you're from the area, if you're not from the area, look into other options. If people tell you that there aren't other options, or, oh, you don't want to bother with that, or, oh, it's not a good idea, then don't necessarily listen to them.
I'm about 45 minutes on the other side of the river in Pennsylvania, a little town called Moscow. My whole twist is pretty much different than what you've heard. Everybody here is talking wood pellets, greatest thing going. I'm going to talk about grass that our local farmers can grow, put farmers back into the business. This happens to be what Muscanus grass looks like. 3 years in the planting. Next year it should be another 2 to 3 feet taller. It'll produce on the average about 10 ton to the acre. 1 ton of Muscanus grass made into briquettes, which people want to come up and look at, there's some samples here, will produce the same amount of heat as 100 gallon of oil. What it will do is give the local farmers, if you ride through, you see the poor soils, the fields, it's not growing anything. Excuse me, I shouldn't say poor soils. I gotta say, what did I tell you it was? Marginal soils are, government don't like to hear anything, we don't have poor soils. So, but it will grow on marginal soils. It is harvested in the winter time. And the good reason for that is it's dried down. Now this was cut 3 weeks ago. And this is probably at about 20% moisture. In January, it'll dry down to somewhere between 8 and 10% moisture, which is just perfect for the briquetting, pelletizing, whatever you want to do with it. When we say marginal soils, it's these old hay fields, it's the stuff that we're not growing corn or something else on. You can grow this, pay for your own fuels. The reason it's harvested in the wintertime is because it's dried down. And if you got wet spots in your field, which I don't know well about New York, but Pennsylvania, most fields have a little bit of a wet spot somewhere. It grows great in it. But in January and February, you get a freeze over. You go in, you cut it, you bale it all the same day. So while it's froze, you can go across your ground. You're not tearing up the ground. It's an alternative to what we've heard here of wood pellets. Still burns at basically the same BTUs. Most of the furnaces these guys have talked about will burn a pellet or a briquette in 1.5 to 2 inch diameter. Once you go above that, we tried some 3-inch. It don't burn well for the simple reason is they can't get it into the furnace. This will go through, and if people would like to see some example, I guess it's too dark in here for anybody to see in here, but we're primarily making it in 1.5 or 2 inch diameters. It will go through. As you're looking through that box, you'll see a lot of different things. There's some sawdust that we briquetted. There's some paper. There's miscanthus grass. A lot of different things. So pretty much what my object is to try to put the farmers back in. Couldn't get them in it before, so people planted switchgrass, which is pretty close to this. The only thing, switchgrass will only grow mature at 5 to 6 feet. Does the same thing though. You take it off in the winter time, it's dried down. You can briquette it. It don't have as much ligaments into it as this does, so it don't bind quite as good. Again, if we can get the local farms back into the business, we're going to save them. Farmers here are selling off lots because they can't afford to pay their taxes. We've heard Mike talk about the schools, the government buildings, and everything else that's going. We now have a market for it, but there was nobody to grow it. We've been cutting trees down. Wood pellets is the great thing going. Farmers don't grow that many trees, and it takes too many years. This you harvest every year. It takes 4 years from the time you plant it to get a full growth. Like I said, that's a 3-year plant. So it was very expensive. You had to plant it by the rhizome. There's now a company over in England that's producing what they call a seed. And it's about the size of a wine cork. Haven't seen it in this country do anything yet. This will be the first year. I'm going to plant a few acres just to see what it'll do. There is not a commercial planter made for it. There's not a commercial planter made to plant this. We took an old tobacco planter, converted it over, and it worked well. But it's still a lot of handwork to get it planted. Very expensive. When I first started, I paid 50 cents for a little 4-cent rhizome. Last year, we got the price down to 25 cents. This year, they're talking we can buy a rhizome for about 10 cents. I plan on, after my initial planting, that I'll be able to get somewhere around 5,000 to 8,000 rhizomes off of what I planted. You got to dig it up, wash it out, get it ready to replant. So I'll have enough. It takes 5,000 rhizomes to plant an acre of ground. I hope to plant about 10 acres this year using some other people's stuff as well as my own. And I don't know what this crowd is, can't even see us, but I don't know if we have any farmers, if we have end users or whatever is in here, but I'm willing to share whatever information I can get. We've traveled everywhere. I've met a lot of these people, Mike at many of the Penn State things. It's a great opportunity. It's an opportunity for farmers and the end user because it's something that'll be grown local. And I guess with that, if anybody has any questions for me or if you got anything else out here, be more than happy.
Okay, which is better, hardwood or softwood pellets?
I guess we're a pellet delivery company. Hardwood pellets, hardwood pellets are better. I like them. There's what? Over here, okay. Hardwood pellets are much better. There's a little less ash with softwood, as I talked earlier. 40 pounds of softwood and 40 pounds of hardwood gives you the same BTUs. 40 pounds is 40 pounds. However, when we look at 40 pounds of hardwood, it's smaller. 40 pounds of softwood, it's a much bigger pile. But 40 pounds is 40 pounds, same BTU rate. I think the only difference really is that softwood has considerably less ash.
Did you say less ash or more?
Less ash with softwood than there is with hardwood. Hardwood has considerably more ash.
Okay.
What, in your opinion, is the best brand of locally available wood pellets?
Is that us? Again? Anybody here got those? I don't know that there's any special brand. I think that depends on the device that you have in your home.
Ed, what's the brand do you know the name of the brand that you go with out at the Cooperage? Is that New England wood pellet or?
No, it's Energex.
Energex.
I don't know where they get them, but it's Energex. And if we on occasion need to go to a bag in an emergency situation, we use Dry Creek premium pellets, which seems to be fine.
I think from the information that I've been told through the different pellet manufacturers or from the different boiler manufacturers it's really kind of hit or miss. Like even Home Depot and Walmart, when they buy their pellets, they buy them bagged from local dealers. It's not like Home Depot sells pellets from one distributor located in Wisconsin or something. They buy theirs locally, so quality kind of varies a little bit, consistency varies a little bit, but from what I hear, New England wood pellet's pretty good, and I believe we've had pretty good success with Energex.
New England wasn't able at the time to deliver bulk, and that is what brought us to Energex.
Yeah, and they're out of Mifflinburg? Mifflinville Town, Burke, so, okay.
Well, from what our experience has been, because we deliver to a lot of different customers, New England is a very good product. Energex is a very good product. When you buy them at Home Depot or Lowe's, such as Blair was discussing, a lot of times they just brand it with warm front or cold front, whatever they want to name it as, but it's all usually made from one or two distributors locally. So, but largely what we see, as I discussed about, particularly with the kettle boiler, it's not finicky, and neither is the pneumatic furnace. It doesn't care what you put in it, it's going to burn it very well. And I think that's what most people have to decide when they get into a pellet burning device. Find one that it's like it's been described either by me or by Blair. You can trust these guys that are in the business for a while and have seen what different things, how they happen. But find one that will burn anything. That makes it easier on everybody.
Okay, discuss the energy costs of all the processing of the pellets, the cutting, the chipping, the transporting, the pelletizing, the bagging, and transporting to the customer. How does it compare to fossil fuels or other sustainable energy sources? I know that's a biggie.
What you're asking for is a life cycle cost analysis. I'll take the easy way out and say that I am pretty sure that exists. Someone has done the life cycle cost analysis for the different processes, different fuels. I unfortunately don't have that kind of information.
Okay.
We could find that though.
All right, we can try to get that on our website.
But I think the largest thing that people have to understand is that from fossil fuels to wood pellet fuels is, I think what Blair alluded to, is that everything stays here locally. You're employing local people, whether it's a lumberjack or the guy cleaning up storm damage. et cetera, or the pellet guy just making his living down the pellet plant, or the guy at Lowe's who's actually loading them onto your truck, et cetera, or hiring us or hiring them to put in the pellets. When you look at all that, fossil fuels, in the 80% that leaves the country, there's no price comparison to be debated. Everything you hear with pellet stays right here locally. I think that's what we have to look at.
I got something to add to that. When we were up in Maine at the Maine Energy School, they stressed to us that the mills up there are running 40–60%. And if you're thinking in the back of your mind, yeah, right now it's a good deal to go pellets. And what's going to happen when the demand goes up, the price is going to go up. It's actually going to work just the opposite from what we were informed, because it costs money to ramp up and ramp down these paper mills up there to be making the pellets. So as the demand goes, the production gets more consistent, the price should be coming down. It kind of goes a little bit against your logic as far as supply and demand, but there is this sweet spot where if the mills are running round the clock, it's actually going to be cheaper. We say local. New England is only 6–8 hours away. That's still local. It's still this side of the Atlantic. It's still not any fossil fuels. We're not fighting wars to cut down a tree.
Another point is, when you're talking fossil fuels, transportation is the biggest expense in anything we have here, whether it's hauling pellets, hauling oil. But our oil is coming from overseas. You got a cost to bring it over. After it's here, you got a cost of distributing. If you're burning any kind of pellet, regardless of whose it is, it's more of a local thing. Transportation is eliminated, or not eliminated, but cut way down. And we don't have the air pollution. Somewhere along the line, that's got to mean something to somebody to eliminate our greenhouse gases. Germany is so far ahead of us in their markets. They are using pellets, they're using grass, they're using everything but oil to eliminate the greenhouse gases.
Okay, I know that in Europe, they have been using pellet boilers for more than 20 years, and they are still relatively new in the U.S. Is the quality of the U.S. manufactured boilers up to par with European models? And what are they doing, if so? If not, what are they doing to make that happen?
From the different manufacturers of pellet boilers that we've dealt with, one being the Ogafins, which you saw a picture of, and also a brand called Pellet. What they're really doing is reusing their technology and just licensing it over in this state. The Ogafin is from Austria, is now the Mises auto pellet, the Main Energy Systems auto pellet. I can't speak to the kettle. I don't know much about that, but same thing with Pellet. They're bringing the engineers over. They're learning how to produce them. I believe, excuse me, right now the auto pellet, the Mises ones, they're being made in Pennsylvania at the Burnham plant, but it's still the same technology and engineering. It's just a rebranding that's happening.
Yeah, they paid for the patent, and then now we can actually manufacture them here in the U.S. also.
And the same has happened with Woodmaster. There was a Bionova out of Sweden, and they brought the technology, branded it as Woodmaster. They had to do some retrofit, some changes to it in order to adapt it to North America culture, how we use electricity and how we display our meters of our computer, the computer technology that's inside the wood burner. So Woodmaster is now manufactured in Minnesota. They also have Biomass, which is technology from Europe. Bionova manufactures that. It's actually, I think it's actually an Italian boiler design. So there are a number of these systems. Wittes is manufactured, and I forget it's a town up the Hudson River. It's a European residential in the living room type wood burner, pellet burner. So there are a number of these. Schmid is another company that I can think of. There are a number of companies that are being manufactured, or they assemble the major components here in the United States. And I can think of some up in Canada right now. Viessmann bought into the Kube boiler from Germany, and they're manufactured up in Canada. So there's all kinds of examples we keep uncovering and discovering.
Okay. Could you address the incentives? Are there any incentives available or tax credits of any sort regarding any of these installations?
Right now, in front of Congress, the House of Representatives on the federal side has got a BTU bill in front of it. We do need everybody here in the audience and everybody on the panel to get a hold of these people. It's like I said, it's not a Republican or Democrat issue. It's a people issue. That's how I tell them. It's just a people issue. It doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on. Get together and get this thing done for us. And that was the BTU bill is getting efficiency levels, which included thermal, geothermal, photovoltaic, and biomass was a big part of that BTU bill. So go ahead and give them a call and tell them, listen, get with it. That's what we need to do for our politicians. We need to kick them in the backside sometimes and run them up.
Okay, great. Are there any chemicals whatsoever used in the binding process of either making the pellets or making the briquettes, the grass briquettes?
I'll address wood pellet manufacturing. Yes, there are some chemicals. I want to say about 3, 4 different kinds of chemicals, not used all at the same time, but depending on the manufacturer. Sulfonites are one, which is a natural compound taken right from herbaceous or vegetative material from the wood. And it's used as a binding material. There are clays that are used. Clays that, if you think of them like cornstarch, the clay material is there to assist in the lubrication of the wood as it goes through the pellet mill. And there are different types of, very secret vegetable oils that are used in order to help that lubricity to get the wood to flow through the pellet mill. So as far as nasty chemicals, anything that would alarm us, no. That lignosulfonite is not a dangerous chemical. The clays, the vegetable oils are not. Mostly in that process, because of the high pressures and the resultant high temperatures that result inside of a mill, as that mill pushes the sawdust through the holes that would produce the actual pellet. The lignin inside wood, the natural chemical crystalline molasses-like substance in wood. Wood is made of cellulose, hemicellulose, and lignin. That, at those high temperatures, that crystalline lignin will melt and bind. That is the actual natural binder that will hold the cellulose, hemicellulose together in that pellet form. And as it's being extruded, looks like a soft pencil or a crayon, it's being cut off by knives as the mill rotates. So it's, as far as hardwood, softwood pellet manufacture, it's a fairly natural, clean process.
Now, I'll speak on the briquettes. If you've seen the box that was passed around here, there is no ligaments or nothing added to that whatsoever. It's the ligament. All the grasses, there was some there that's a switchgrass. There's some of the Muscanus grass. There's some paper mixed in. There was one that's a little yellow. If you looked at it, that's wax paper that just was going to the landfill. It's a food wrapping wax paper. With the briquette, it's larger. It's an oversized pellet. Therefore, it will bind much better than the pellet. And we don't need as much heat and you don't need to add anything to it. It's strictly the pure product so far, all by itself.
Can those briquettes be burnt in a regular wood stove?
Yes, that's their primary thing. They can be burned in almost any of the pellet manufacturers, except for the feed system needs to be redesigned. They burn hotter, they burn longer. But for the average person that has a wood stove in their house, such as yours, the outside wood furnaces as you drive up and down the road here completely, they'll burn just like firewood. How we got so interested in it is we sold the outside wood stoves. After 4 or 5 years, people don't like that cutting firewood. These guys like it. But I don't, after so many years of cutting it, and I agree with him. At 12 years old, I hated it. You was pinching your fingers and I yelled about it. Now it's not so bad because it saves me a little money. But these can be shoveled in with a scoop shovel. They're now making some specialized furnaces that really hasn't hit the market too much that will handle the 1.5 and the 2-inch briquettes. But for anybody that has them in their house, yeah, you can open them up, bring them in, put them in just like you would firewood. It'll burn at the same BTUs, if not a little bit better than dried oak. The problem most people have is they put too much in, and if you don't have a real tight furnace, it gets too hot. You've got to have a super tight furnace that you can control your draft.
Are there insurance issues regarding, or safety issues regarding the installations of any of these boilers or furnaces?
I guess you guys.
I'm not an insurance salesman or anything, but the issue that that most insurance companies have is they will require you to have a certain amount of burn time without anyone hand feeding the unit. Like I have an outdoor wood stove, it wouldn't pass because I have to, in the middle of the winter, I have to put wood in it once a day. What happens if I get in a car accident and I can't make it, or I go away for the day, or something like that? That's why you have these large storage capacities, these 3, 4, 5, 6 ton hoppers. Most insurance companies want 5 to 7 days without you actually having to add fuel, and that's what they'll give you with these hoppers. So as long as you get this hopper and an automatic feed system, it's not an issue to my knowledge.
You'll see with the auger feed systems, if you have the silo or the spring bag or whatever it is as your storage unit, and you'll have an auger that comes up and feeds to the unit. In between the auger and the actual burner, there's a little bit of a slinky hose. You'll see that also in their basement, is they have a vacuum system it's all like a type of slinky hose. Well, that's meant to, if there's some sort of fire, some sort of issue in terms of safety, that will actually melt and cut off the supply of the pellets to the burner. Also, with many of these systems, one particularly is the main energies system, is everything feeds into, there's this ball valve that's energized electrically, and once it senses heat or the electricity is cut off to it, it automatically closes, and so that way no more pellets continue to keep feeding in the event of an overfire or an overdraft or something like that, where it gets heated too much and you have the opportunity to burn the unit, ruin the unit, or even worse, burn the house down and have some sort of safety issue.
The larger boilers the schools are using that I showed you, they have airlocks, that bay bin that I was talking about in the front of the boiler, as the sawdust, or the wood chips rather, are being pushed into the front of the boiler. There's an airlock that if there is a backfire, it can't get past that airlock back into the screw auger or back into the wood bin. And those larger systems too, they have automatic wax plug sprinkler systems that if there is a fire detected, thermocouple detects that increase in temperature, the sprinkler goes on, or it actually melts. The wax plug won't melt and actually irrigate, flood that fuel feed, put the fire out.
Thank you. What does carbon neutral mean? Is the burning of pellets polluting?
Carbon neutral, it's a controversial topic right now. Carbon neutrality. If you burn fossil fuel, burn oil, burn coal. Coal is carbon. You're from the ground. You're bringing that to the surface and burning it. Oil is the same thing, and you're releasing carbon into the atmosphere through your emissions that has been locked down underground for eons. That's considered, in a matter of speaking, new carbon being added to the atmosphere. But when you burn wood, and this is part of the controversy, when you're burning wood, you're growing a tree, you're taking carbon out of the soil. Through chlorophyll, you're producing sugars, and you get that cycling within the tree, and you're laying on wood, and we want to burn that wood. So upon burning that wood, we're releasing carbon dioxide or carbon soot particles to the atmosphere. But in the process of growing trees, you take that carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere and you produce, through photosynthesis, you're producing more wood. So you get this cycle that is being discussed. You're taking carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere, you're putting it, laying it down as wood, you're burning the wood, releasing carbon dioxide, and then using it to grow another tree. So the net effect is zero production of new carbon to the atmosphere. And there are many, the Monomet study in Massachusetts a few years ago went, trying to find the word here, they disclaimed that. They said that that was not true, and it's brought this controversy to light that it is not neutral. To the carbon neutrality is a myth, and they've fought to disclaim that concept. What was the other part of the question?
Is burning wood polluting?
Oh, is burning wood polluting? Well, in the wood combustion process, you're still producing carbon dioxide. The struggle is to increase efficiency so that you're putting less particulate matter into the atmosphere, because particulate matter in this very microscopic sense is what pollutes the lung, what causes irritations within the lung, and that leads to health problems. So the quest is always to keep improving the efficiencies, produce less and less smoke, less and less particulate matter. And because of the computer technology, the under fire, over fire air that's introduced to many of these more automated, more complicated combustion systems, they are achieving that. If you look at the schools as they're burning wood chips, you'll see just white steam coming out. Virtually, they're smoke-free. Their combustion is smoke-free. Pellets, burning pellets in a pellet boiler, because of the kiln-dried, virtually kiln-dried substance called a wood pellet, very, very low moisture content. You're not using BTUs to drive off moisture. You're producing a hotter fire. It's a very efficient fire. So they're very, very, basically a virtually smoke-free combustion process. The efficiencies are so great that, like as was pointed out earlier, the BTUs, you're keeping more of that BTU in the boiler and less going down the stack, that now they're using PVC pipes as the smokestack horizontally right through the wall. You can get away with that because there's less temperature leaving the combustion system, and with that too, you have less smoke. No one's going to tolerate a smokestack coming horizontally out of the pipe or out of the wall and having smoke billowing 5 feet, 4 feet off the ground out in your backyard. People just wouldn't tolerate that. So very efficient burn with these pellet boilers. There is still carbon dioxide, as I point out, and still some particulate matter. But as far as other chemicals, wood does not have the sulfur dioxide or many of the other chemicals that you could find in say, coal or oil combustion.
The old rule of the school always was, it's told to me, is wood laying on the ground rotting will produce the same carbon as it does inside the boiler burning. So that's why people call it a carbon neutral. Even though you're burning it, you're not getting any more carbon off of it than what you did laying out in the woods rotting away. On my end of it, the miscanthus has no carbon in it. All the carbon when it's grown goes down at the first killing frost into the roots. The roots store the carbon, which creates its own fertilizer for the next year of growing. So when you're burning it, you have almost zero smoke. As he said, you may see a little puff of white, but you don't see the black smoke like you would. There's no carbon there to burn.
Do you foresee a time when loggers with a surplus of cordwood or farmers with a surplus of grass or miscanthus or whatever it is that they're growing would be able to take their product to a local pellet briquette making processing plant?
Yes, I think that's very in the near future. Your loggers is local, they're always looking for a place to go. You have so many different kinds of wood chippers on the market today that they can chip it, they can take it to the schools. Your pellets is getting made more local all the time. There's more people going in it. There's a lot going out, as he pointed out. Two that we know of, not too long ago, is going out of the business. I am producing our own briquetters. We're going to make them that they can be portable, that they can go from farm to farm, or a small group, or be inside as a stationary unit. Again, the transportation cost has been the greatest thing, I believe, in the biofuel industry. It's too late to move, it costs too much to move, so the closer we can keep it, the much better off everybody is going to be.
So Larry, let's just say I have a couple of acres, I grow miscanthus, I call you, you come with your pelletizer, and then it goes right into my bin. Is that possible?
I don't know about pelletizers, I haven't
Or
studied
briquetting?
that. Briquettes is definitely going to be a possibility.
Okay.
Pelletizers is pretty much all made to be stationary. There's been several that's tried to put them on trailers. I don't know if anybody's got one to work to you, Mike. I know Pennsylvania, Penn State's tried several.
Pellet, the mobile pelleting. Hudson River Grass Initiative is successful with it. So, the one we had with the NRCS here down near Bloomsburg, below Scranton, was not. It is producing, but they're not getting the yield out of it that they had initially predicted. And the quality.
Can't get the quality.
To add to what Larry was talking about, as far as woody biomass being used as a fuel, landowner has a few acres, 10 acres of woods, does a little timber sale, and he wants to take that someplace and get it pelletized. That isn't happening now, and I don't foresee it because it's an element of scale. Currently, and this is what I see in the future, currently how biomass energy is happening for wood chips is it's an integrated process. Because of the very small margin of profitability in biomass, bioenergy, what is happening now is a timber sale will take place that has the large saw timber trees, the trees being cut for lumber. That pays for the process, for the operation. And in those opportunities where the smaller unacceptable growing stock, the pole wood, the smaller diameter material can be gleaned, can be taken off the forest floor and removed as pole wood, that will find its way to a bioenergy facility, processing facility, either a utility power plant, would be chipped for chips for for a small commercial application like a school, like a high school, or it'll find its way to as pole wood to a pellet mill. But to say that a small 10-acre, small woodlot, that the landowner himself would take his material to a pellet mill, it's not likely, because the mills will rely on contracted deliveries. So it's a matter of scale. Contract, they know that they have a steady supply of feedstock coming from timber sales, and that will pay for the process of pelletizing or chipping wood for a school. I think one of your questions I think one of your questions that I read was that can the homeowner rely on himself, buy the equipment to do his own pellets? There are machines, equipments available for a homeowner to make his own pellets. I've seen pellets machines made in Czechoslovakia and made in China. Put them in your garage, they'll mold them to the floor, and you can produce your own wood pellets. But you have to process your wood into wood chips, macerate it, or hammer mill it down into a sawdust. What homeowners will do is just go out and procure sawdust from a sawmill, and then feed it and make your own wood pellets. It's very labor intensive, very small, slow production, but it is doable. And the machines from China or Czechoslovakia, Austria do exist.
On the other hand, the briquettes can be taken to the farm and briquetted. The average right now is it'll take 1 acre to heat an average farmhouse. What an average farmhouse is, I don't know. But if a farmer has an acre of his marginal soils he's doing nothing with and can grow his own heat for the year, if he has 2 acres, maybe he can heat his neighbor's house. It is a doable thing. It don't need to be ground down to be pelletized. As you can see, there was a bag here that went through a hammer mill, a chopper. It don't need to be ground down. Like the pellet needs to be taken right down to a sawdust to be done.
It's a difference in technology. The pressures, the energy put into that machine to make a briquette is much less than a pellet manufacturer, a pellet mill, where the pressures have to be so intense to actually melt the lignin to make that hard wood pellet. So it's just a matter of the size of the machinery, the intensity of the energy going into that machine to pelletize something or briquette something.
Okay, so let's say a large portion of the community decides to go to the pellet boilers. What is the chance that the wood to create these pellets is going to run out? Is it a problem? Do we have enough wood for, what scale can we anticipate is going to be feasible?
I don't see a problem in our area here in the Northeast. I spent a lot of time in the Carolinas and Georgia where they're cutting green pine, making pellets. And the one company alone is cutting 25 acres of clear cut per day, 7 days a week. They have so many thousands and thousands of acres of green pine, they say it's never going to run out. But even with a hybrid pine, it takes 15 years to grow. And I think there was 3 to 6 new pellet manufacturers, maybe Mike would know even better, that was started up this year. All those green pine pellets are being shipped to Asia. We are not getting anything out.
I'm going to echo what Larry was saying, that the southern states, Virginia, North South Carolina, all the way to the eastern hills of Texas, now are looking at ways to manufacture pellets. There are large factories, large pellet mills being constructed and that are currently producing. And a large percentage of that, yes, they're going to China, but they're coming up into the port of Chesapeake, and from there they're heading for the United Kingdom and Germany. Because, for instance, both of those countries are converting their coal-fired power plants to wood pellets. The Drax power plant in the United Kingdom is one of the first to do this. They're converting the entire, they're not co-firing, they're converting the entire power plant. These are, as we have here in Pennsylvania and New York, you have these large power plants with cooling tower and the thousands of megawatts of electricity production. That's what they're going to do in England and in Europe. One of the controversies there right away, people were asking the same questions we're asking. What about sustainability? Are we going to cause a problem in the Amazon or in some other country in Central America? Are we going to start denuding and over harvesting these other countries, creating some kind of climate problem in another part of the country? And we don't want that. We don't want to be a part of this destruction and damage to our environment. So we want sustainability. We want to know that wood pellets being imported into our country, into our countries, comes from sustainable sources. It's coming from well-managed forests that are harvesting as much wood as they can grow in 1 year. So the Europeans, they're intelligent just as we are, and they're sensitive to the environment just as we are. So that's one of the big controversies. And that, in effect, could place pressure on states in this country that have sustainable forest management practices. Again, I repeat, you grow as much as you can harvest. And you only allocate harvesting so many acres of harvest that match how much is being grown. Pennsylvania has that on our Bureau of Forestry lands. We are certified through SCS, Sustainable Certification System. We are certified and we harvest as much as we can grow, as we can regenerate it here. So what about those opportunities of states, for instance, in Pennsylvania or New York, Pennsylvania, New England, that may want to pelletize from harvests that do not come from sustainable sources? They may or may not. No one's monitoring that. If private land holdings are not certified, they're not monitoring how much they cut and how much they regenerate and grow, then we can't answer that question adequately.
Okay, thank you. I have one last question, and actually it's more like a comment that I found, which I thought was interesting, especially in light of the fact of, there's so many environmental groups concerned about creating another problem as we move into different energy sources. So this is a statement that I found in my research. In 2011, 12 prominent U.S. environmental organizations adopted, and I don't know who they are, I'm sorry, adopted policy setting a high bar for government incentives of biomass energy, including wood pellets. It states in part that, quote, biomass sources and facilities qualifying for incentives, government incentives, must result in lower life cycle, cumulative and net greenhouse gas and ocean acidifying emissions within 20 years and also over the long term than the energy sources that they replace or compete with. So I don't know if any of you have any connections to any of different environmental groups that you've been working with, or are they, does that question anything that any of you guys can address? Mike, you probably, then the energy sources that they replace or compete with. I think that's the question here is, are we creating an energy, we don't want to create another problem here.
I can't address exactly that, what group had written that or what.
I think it came from one of the Pellet websites. I'm not sure which one. Sorry, I can't quote it.
It obviously makes sense. And I can say from government perspective, governments, state governments have alternative energy portfolio standards that they're trying to meet. Alternative energy, so much alternative energy will be produced by certain target dates. And Pennsylvania is trying to meet that. There is a plan, there is a system in place where we are trying to ramp up and meet those. One was the 25 by 25. By the year 2025, 25% of energy consumed in the nation would come from alternative sources: wind, solar, biomass, and geothermal. You're right. So yeah, there are efforts, nationwide to meet alternative energy developments, and there will be all different types depending on the state, all different levels of accomplishment at this time.
Okay, I'm just going to I'll let you answer, but I just want to squeeze this one last question is, what is the average typical payback period for a 120,000 BTU new MAC furnace, hot air?
3 to 4 years. We can install a new MAC wood pellet furnace for about $7,500. And that's with a hopper. You still have to feed it with the bags. That's labor, that's everything all in one. Like I said, you still have to feed the hopper. But other than that, it goes up from there a little bit. If you want to add air conditioning, we certainly can do that. If you want an automated feed system, we can do that as well. So things to run, but the bottom line there is most kettle boilers can be installed for $9,500 as a starting rate. And you're looking at most of like a new Mac 7,500. That's our typical startups.
The caveat to that is, of course, it depends on the type of fuel you're currently consuming, because they all have different price points per million BTU produced. So to give you an answer, how many years payback, depends on your current situation, how big your building is, what you're currently paying for your fuel, and what setting you put your thermostat on.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions that you have? We will address them and they'll be on our website. And how about that? Was that fantastic?